I've got nothing against Eminem. Got nothing against Eminem. They can rap, but I care about us more. I don't want to go through. I don't want to talk about it no more. I don't want. For 22 years, every time I do an interview, they ask me about Eminem. My daughter came into the industry figuring that, hey, I gotta be cool with Eminem because everybody's against my dad.
I like to tell the people home, I feel so safe tonight with all this police protection courtesy of G Unit. Fat Joe is man. Boy, for what? You know what? This is true.
In hip-hop, most beefs kick off the same way, with a slick bar, a dirty look, or somebody feeling disrespected. But what happens after that? That's when things can get wild. A little tension can stay playful, or it can blow up into something nobody planned for.
There was a massive brawl last night at a nightclub in New York. Chris Brown's entourage and Drake's entourage went crazy on each other.
From jokes and petty internet shots, to whole crews getting involved, to real-life fallout where people actually get hurt, or worse. Each level just gets messier, darker, and way more dangerous. Let's get into it. Level 1. These beefs are the kind cooked up mostly for album sales, publicity, or internet engagement with absolutely zero real danger attached. One of the cleanest examples of this was the legendary 50 Cent versus Kanye West face-off in 2007. That whole beef was literally a SoundScan showdown. Who could sell more albums on the same release day? 50 dropped Curtis, Kanye dropped Graduation, and 50 turned it into a spectacle by swearing he'd retire if Ye outsold him. The media loved it, fans bought into it, and the whole thing became a cultural event.
He brought his big brother with him, and his big brother ain't no competition for me. You know, I'm a horse, so I had to hand the mic off, to my big brother to help me out a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Kanye ended up selling 957,000 first week, while 50 moved 691,000. Instead of disappearing from rap, 50 later admitted the whole rivalry was planned from the start. As he put it, that was something that we created. It riled the fans up. Both of the numbers were bigger than what they would have been. He even laughed about how they were literally posing shoulder to shoulder for Rolling Stone. That same playful energy carried over into Soulja Boy's world, especially back when YouTube and MySpace ran the culture. His back and forth with Bow Wow over Lamborghinis in 2009 was pure internet theater. Soulja dropped videos clowning Bow Wow's ride, suggesting it was rented, and even claiming Bow Wow bought it with money he made off their song Marco Polo. Bow snapped back, fans ate it up, and the entire feud lived on social media only.
Fact one, that's not Bow Wow's Lamborghini, that is rented. But even if he did want to do it and I won, he couldn't give me the car because the car not his. 3, I bought my cash, I had it for 1 day, and he tried to stunt on me with the rented Lamborghini.
For any out there to think that my Lambo is rented, you crazy. You know what I'm saying? I've been working, this is what I do. I've been making money since I was in diapers. That's why don't like me. So you can't outstun a stunner. That's all I'm around is stunners, little DeAndre. So I'm gonna tell you like this. You want my paperwork? Here go my paperwork right here. Purchase date 11/20/2006. It's in my name, Shy Gregory Moss.
Years later, they both treated it like a joke, just two rich kids flexing for clicks. Soulja must have enjoyed that energy because he recreated it in 2017 when he randomly got into it with Chris Brown. This one started because Soulja liked and commented on Karrueche trans pictures, which Brown didn't appreciate, and so Instagram threats got thrown around.
St. Louis was popping.
Who ain't from Fruits? Who ain't from Fruit Time? I'm walking through Brompton right now. I'm in my hood right now. Chris Brown talking about.
Then suddenly Floyd Mayweather was promoting a real celebrity boxing match between them. Chris even said boxing match set, legally, man to man. It had the potential to be a cool moment, showing two artists settling something without violence, but the whole thing collapsed when Chris Brown pulled out, saying too many middlemen were trying to get paid. Soulja immediately got online celebrating like he'd already won. Meanwhile, the game was busy trying to manufacture a beef of his own. Early in his career, he went out of his way to take shots at Jay-Z on multiple songs, hoping Hov would respond and elevate him. One of his most infamous attempts was on I'm So Wavy, where he rapped, "Trying to sun me, I'm not from NYC. You can't even have a child by your destiny." And I ain't mean to take a shot at B. I blacked out like you did free cause I'm so wavy. Too hardcore to be a Jay-Z, rock more red than Wheezy Baby. He tried everything from bringing up Beyonce's fertility to referencing rumored Rockefeller drama. Jay-Z didn't give him anything back. When a fan once asked Jay, when you gonna go at the game, he smirked and said, we ain't with him, we're gonna let him commit. With no response from Jay, the beef never existed anywhere except in Game's mind. And then there's Nicki Minaj versus Cardi B, the one beef that refuses to die completely. This rivalry goes back to before they ever spoke. In 2017, Cardi performed at Summer Jam during Remy Ma's Unity tribute, while Nicki's face appeared on screen like a memorial, basically burying her. That alone sparked tension. Nicki added fuel with her no flag line, "Lil, I heard these labels trying to make another me. Everything you're getting, Lil, is cause of me." Fans instantly connected it to Cardi. The situation kept simmering through cryptic performances, motorsport drama, and subliminal bars. Nicki had lines on Mama. "I was out in Spain rocking a Medusa head. I never have to give a rap producer head. If I do though, I'ma write a book like Superhead." Then on We Go Up, she spit, "After all that surgery, you're still ugly and that is what gets me." Fans immediately pointed at Cardi, especially since she openly talks about her procedures. Things finally popped off physically at the 2018 Harper's Bazaar party when Cardi threw a shoe at Nicki, yelling,
Footage of the fight is surfacing. You can see Cardi stumbling across the hallway, held back by her security team. There's Cardi undoing her shoe, then throwing it at Nicki. Nicki's team kept the shoe as Exhibit A.
After that, every new song, tweet, or moment from either woman became a shot. And in 2025, when Cardi dropped Am I the Drama, Nicki went at her online again, dragging Cardi's album sales, her pregnancy, and even insulting culture. Cardi fired back by talking about Nicki's son and accusing her of all kinds of things. It got extremely messy, but one truth stayed the same. Both sides get massive engagement whenever the feud flares up. Level 2. These are the ones that stay strictly on wax, real lyrical tension, real feelings, but zero violence. One of the clearest examples in the modern era was J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar's brief but unforgettable clash in 2024. It all started with Drake and Cole's first-person shooter in late 2023, where the idea of the Big Three resurfaced: Cole, Drake, and Kendrick sitting at the top together. Kendrick wasn't feeling that at all. On Future and Metro Boomin's Like That, he detonated the whole idea with a line, "Mother F the Big Three ninja, it's just Big Me." He accused them of sneak dissing and positioned himself as the lone giant. Cole shot back with 7-minute drill, breaking Kendrick down piece by piece. He joked about Kendrick's height, jump up and see, said Kendrick's early work was classic but his recent stuff was tragic, and even opened with a flex, "Light work like it's PWC." But then 3 days later, Cole got on stage at Dreamville Fest and apologized in front of the world. He told the crowd, "That's the lamest ish I did in my life."
It's one part of that make me feel like, man, that's the lamest I ever did in my life, right? How many people think Kendrick Lamar is one of the greatest to ever touch a fucking microphone?
Then he deleted the song from streaming. Months later, on Port Antonio, Cole explained why he backed out. "I wouldn't have lost a battle, dog. I would have lost a bro. And all for what?" A similar vibe played out years earlier with Common and Drake. In 2011, Common dropped Sweet, calling out rappers who were soft, and everyone knew he was poking at Drake. He rapped, "Yeah man, y'all ninjas man, you soft mother F. Yeah my man, my mother F. Then come around my crib, you know where I'm from. Some hoe-ass ninjas, singing all around me man, la la la. You ain't mother effing Frank Sinatra." Drake clapped back on "Stay Schemin'," implying Common was washed and outdated. Common didn't hold back. His remix had lines like, "My motto is Chicago B, everybody know you're sweet," and he even went at Drake's masculinity, saying his songs were basically hoe music. It could have gotten ugly, but instead, they ran into each other at the 2012 Grammys, and they had a real conversation.
We felt at that concert, I was like, people still thirst for this feeling.
So that's when you got the idea of y'all getting together?
We had already started cooking, but it just inspired it more.
By the NBA All-Star Game weeks later, they were shaking hands and smiling. Then there's LL Cool J and Cannabis, one of the most iconic lyrical back and forths ever, and all over a misunderstanding. When Cannabis recorded his verse for 4321 in 1997, he opened with, "Yo L, is that a mic on your arm? Let me borrow that." He meant it respectfully. He admired LL, but LL took it as a challenge and snapped back in his own verse. "The symbol on my arm is off limits to challengers. You hold the rusty sword, I swing the Excalibur." That kicked off a whole war. Cannabis hit back with second-round KO, with Mike Tyson talking at the intro, and LL fired off Ripper Strikes Back. For almost 17 years, they went back and forth through subs and ego. Redman later clarified nobody on the song took Cannabis's line as disrespect. LL just misread it.
And I knew that when he did that verse, it wasn't aimed at LL, but LL is a beast. And he's another one that's not gonna let you ride and say no slick without you getting back at him.
It all came full circle in 2014 at Barclays Center when LL brought Cannabis on stage and performed 4321 together. But nothing defines this level of beef more than Jay-Z versus Nas, the king of New York rivalry. Jay felt Nas ignored him early in his career. Nas felt Jay was trying to take his spot. It boiled over at Summer Jam 2001 when Jay openly dissed Nas and Mobb Deep, then dropped Takeover, poking at Nas's recent album quality and claiming the throne. Nas answered with Ether, one of the nastiest diss tracks ever. He rapped lines like, "I got this, locked in since 9/1, and told Jay, all I did was give you a style for you to run with." He even said Eminem washed Jay on Renegade and threw personal shots left and right. Jay fired back with Super Ugly, but even his own mother told him he went too far. For years, the two traded jabs until 2005 when Jay surprised the world at his I Declare War concert by bringing Nas out on stage. They performed together. Later, Jay even signed Nas to Def Jam. Level 3. This is where rap beef steps into dangerous territory, not because anybody gets shot or ends up in a hospital, but because someone's career does. Their relevance gets erased, their reputation gets shattered, and their industry relationships collapse. Take Eminem versus Benzino, the most brutal example of a non-violent execution the culture has ever seen. In the early 2000s, Benzino used the Source magazine, the Bible of hip-hop, as his personal weapon. He dropped freestyles like "Pull your skirt up and die another day," calling M a rap Hitler, and even threatening Haley, a move that permanently stained his legacy. He used editorials to paint Eminem as a racist, but when M fired back with Nail in the Coffin on November 21, 2002, it wasn't just a diss, it was a demolition. He opened with a stinging hook. "I don't want to be like this, but I'm only being real when I say nobody wants to hear that grandfather rap." Then he ripped into Benzino's failed rap career, his ownership structure, and the Source's corruption. You sit behind an effing desk at the Source, butt-kissing, real lyricists don't even respect you or take you serious. And the industry reacted instantly. Interscope pulled all advertising from the Source, starving it financially. D12, 50 Cent, Obi Trice, DMX, Busta Rhymes, everyone with a platform piled on. By 2005, scandal, mismanagement, and lawsuits finished the job. Benzino survived, but the Source never recovered. 2 decades later, Benzino's name is still more punchline than artist. A very different but equally destructive example is 50 Cent versus Ja Rule, the most famous career assassination in hip-hop. Before 2002, Ja Rule was on fire. Platinum albums, chart dominance, and Murder Inc. running the airwaves. Then 50 signed to Shady Aftermath, dropped Wanksta, and suddenly the tide flipped. By the time Back Down hit on Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 was questioning Ja's credibility so effectively that the streets switched sides. When Ja responded with Loose Change, bringing up Eminem's daughter with a line, "M, you claim your mother's a crackhead and Kim is a no-ness, so what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?" he crossed a line he could never return from.
I was in Detroit and I was there for 2 days and we recorded four songs during that time period. Ja said something about M and he mentioned Haley. I wasn't intending to say anything about that. I was going to be quiet about it because I didn't want M to feel like he brought a problem.
A week later, 50, Eminem, and Busta Rhymes returned with their own version of Hail Mary, mocking Ja's obsession with Tupac and delivering a unified industry beatdown. From 2003 to 2004, Ja Rule's career evaporated. His sales collapsed, his relevance vanished, and he became the butt of every joke. Years later, he admitted, "I was one man against an entire coalition. Nobody had seen anything like that." Ice Cube versus NWA is another classic. Cube left the group over financial exploitation. He was writing their biggest hits but getting crumbs while Eazy-E and Jerry Heller controlled the money. After NWA threw subliminal disses, Cube unloaded No Vaseline in 1991, one of the most scathing diss tracks ever recorded. He attacked the whole crew but saved his nastiest bars for Eazy and Heller. Dropped 4 ninjas, now I'm making all the dough. White man just rulin', ninjas with attitudes, who you foolin'? Then the infamous killer line. Effing MC Ren, Dr. Dre and Yella, but if they were smart as me, Eazy-E would be hanging from a tree with no Vaseline. NWA never recovered. Dre left, the group dissolved, and Cube became a solo powerhouse. Then you have 50 Cent versus Rick Ross. Ross dissed him on Mafia music and 50 responded with Officer Ricky, go ahead, try me, exposing Ross's secret past as a correctional officer. He doubled down with the humiliation tactics, the somebody snitched video, the interviews with Ross's baby mother, the shopping spree footage.
Let me ask you a question. Did you know Rick while he was working in law enforcement?
He was a correction officer.
So we're clear he was a correctional officer?
Yes, he was.
It was all the same formula that killed Ja Rule, but this time, Ross survived. Ross took damage, but he weathered the storm. And then there's Young Buck, whose destruction came from inside the house. Buck complained publicly about not receiving royalties, and 50 responded with one of the coldest moves in rap, leaking a phone call of Buck crying and begging for forgiveness. He blocked Buck from releasing new music, auctioned his plaques, and trapped him in a contract. Even Fat Joe felt the fallout of a 50 Cent beef. After their MTV VMA clash in 2005, Fat Joe jokingly thanked G-Unit for police protection, and 50 fired back live on air. Corporate deals vanished.
I like to tell the people home, I feel so safe tonight with all this police protection courtesy of G-Unit. Fat Joe is man. Boy, for what? You know what? This is true.
Joe later revealed he lost a $20 million Jordan brand deal after Michael Jordan himself called and pulled out. Reebok walked away too. Level 4. This is where violence actually breaks out. People get hurt, weapons might be in the mix, but the rappers themselves usually stay untouched. One of the clearest examples is the Drake vs. Chris Brown fiasco at WIP nightclub in June 2012. Their tension was all tied to Rihanna, Brown's ex and Drake's then current flame, and that awkward mix of jealousy, ego, and unresolved feelings lit the fuse. They ended up in the same club on the same night, and the second their entourages clocked each other, things exploded. Bottles got launched like grenades, glass shattered everywhere, bodyguards clashed on the dance floor, and random people ended up caught in the mess.
There was a massive brawl last night at a nightclub in New York. Chris Brown's entourage and Drake's entourage went crazy on each other.
They all started when the two sides got into a screaming match, which ultimately led to this. Wow, wonder what they were fighting over.
Drake and Chris Brown barely moved. Nobody actually saw them fight. It was all camps versus camps. The worst part, NBA star Tony Parker was just chilling there, minding his business, when flying glass hit his eye. He needed surgery and even feared it would cost him his chance at playing for Team France in the 2012 Olympics. He later sued the club for $20 million. Another classic situation came from the long-running Pusha T versus Drake feud. After Pusha dropped the story of Adidon and exposed Drake's secret son, Drizzy promised physical consequences, saying, "Someone's gonna punch you in the effing face." A few months later in Toronto during Pusha's show, a group of dudes started throwing beer and paint on stage, then tried to rush him.
Utter chaos at a Pusha T concert in Toronto. A massive brawl, multiple beatings, multiple injuries, and the cause? Beer. Like a lot of it.
Pusha T was performing his songs, and then someone started throwing all these drinks on the stage. He kind of ducks off the stage. People start jumping over the railings to get to the stage.
3 people ended up hospitalized, and 1 man was stabbed badly enough that it was labeled life-threatening. Pusha paused the show, came back out, and flat out accused Drake of sending people to attack him. Reports later claimed Drake's team bought up to 200 tickets to plant people in the audience. Drake later went on the shop and basically implied he didn't regret anything, saying certain lines Pusha crossed deserved consequences. The French Montana versus Jim Jones beef shows how drama can stretch for years without the rappers ever throwing a punch. Their tension started with simple disrespect. French flipping Jim off backstage at the VMAs, which spiraled into a decade-plus feud. Their entourages were the ones fighting in studios and on the street. Whenever French's camp and Jim's camp ran into each other, fists flew. But French and Jim never actually touched each other. 15 years later, in 2020, they jumped on Instagram Live together during lockdown and laughed about how stupid it all was. French said, "Don't waste 15 years beefing when y'all could have been getting all kinds of bags together. It was pure ego, not real war." The Game vs 40 Glock situation in 2012 added something new. Violence turned into viral content. When the Game ran into 40 Glock outside a Hollywood mansion, he recorded himself beating the rapper with one hand while holding his iPhone in the other. He even bragged about it online. "iPhone in my left hand, Mayweather in this ninja with my right." The video went everywhere, and Game's team even made a website just to host it.
Look at 40 Glock. Look at 40 Glock, y'all. Check him out.
Let it go. No.
Oh, and it could be another one, boy.
40 Glock later claimed he was jumped by 18 people and had guns pulled on him, but Game denied all of it. 40 eventually sued for millions. Even the Dipset versus Rockefeller tension in the mid-2000s fits the pattern. Cameron and Jay-Z had business issues and personal slights brewing. Their crews clashed in the streets while rappers kept their hands clean. It never escalated into full-blown warfare, but the Entourage drama showed how messy things got behind the scenes. Level 5. This is where hip-hop beef stops being Entourage scuffles and actually puts the rappers themselves in the line of fire. Nobody dies, but weapons come out, people get jumped, shots ring off, and artists walk away bruised, bleeding, or traumatized. One of the wildest examples was the Mobb Deep versus True Life situation in the early 2000s. What started as a financial disagreement turned into one of the most infamous studio invasions in rap history. True Life felt like Mobb Deep had played him, disrespected him, and treated him like a joke. So instead of dropping subliminals or doing interviews, he decided to show them exactly what he was about. According to people who were actually there, like Mug Stoney from Cypress Hill, True Life and about 9 to 10 dudes stormed a Manhattan studio armed with handguns, shotguns, even Uzis. They didn't come to talk. They pistol whipped people, stripped guys naked for humiliation, took money and jewelry, and basically made everyone in the room feel powerless.
Oh, we ended up taking it there, man. Ran in the studio with 9 guns, two shotguns, don't slapped a few cats up.
This other kid over here, they pistol whipped them.
Sent the home naked and all that.
Kicked the shit out of them.
Showed them how we do this, man. We ain't playing no games.
Some say Prodigy and Havoc were there, others say they weren't, but either way, their people definitely got violated. That same kind of energy showed up during the G-Unit versus Murder Inc. war in the mid-2000s. It was a whole era of tension where crews were running into each other backstage, swinging knives, stomping people out, and setting up ambushes. Charlie Baltimore described it perfectly. It became a total wipeout. Nobody died, but the fear was real enough that both labels purposely avoided being in the same spaces because they knew it could get ugly fast. The Game and 50 Cent took things even further with a Hot 97 shooting on February 28, 2005. 50 kicked Game out of G-Unit live on air, embarrassed him publicly, and it pushed Game's camp over the edge. They pulled up to Hot 97 ready for retaliation, and shots were fired right outside the station.
So you guys go to Hot 97 to talk to 50 over what he just said?
Yeah, we had like 20 yellow cabs. So we went up there, they wouldn't let us in, and so we got into, some with his entourage and his security, and shots were fired.
A man named Kevin Reed, linked to Game's camp, got hit. 50 stayed inside and was rushed out by security the moment things exploded. Even the Rick Ross versus Young Jeezy situation at the 2012 BET Hip Hop Awards had that borderline level 5 energy. Ross and Jeezy had been throwing subliminals for years, and when they finally crossed paths backstage, the argument turned physical. Security split them up, but the chaos spilled into the parking lot. Reports came in saying shots were fired, TMZ ran with it, social media blew it up, but Atlanta police later claimed no shots were actually confirmed. Then came the Freddie Gibbs versus Benny the Butcher situation in 2012. Gibbs was in Buffalo for a show when around 10 to 20 guys allegedly affiliated with Benny ran down on him inside a restaurant. They beat him, tossed plates, dragged him, and left his face swollen and bruised.
Look at that shit. The guy jumped out of the window. Ooh, he's throwing haymakers.
Gibbs still performed that night, wearing a ski mask to cover the damage, but his eyes gave everything away. Benny later dropped a lyric that fans interpreted as him addressing the incident directly. "You was tweeting like a killer, but you cried when we pressed you." And even something like T.I. versus Lil Flip hit that territory. T.I. flew all the way to Houston, went straight to Cloverland, and confronted Flip in his own neighborhood. According to Tip, things got heated, someone snuck him from behind, and a real fight went down. It was recorded, talked about on radio, and fueled by threats and disrespect. Rumors floated that guns were nearby, and the situation nearly went further, but cooler heads stopped it from crossing the line. Level 6. This is where rap beef turns into real-life bloodshed, where people die because of rapper conflicts, but the rappers themselves survive. Starting with one of the most defining cases, Gucci Mane versus Young Jeezy. Their tension started over a song Icy, a classic track that turned into a nasty argument over ownership. So Jeezy dropped a diss track called Stay Strapped. The most infamous line from that track was, "I got a bounty on that ish dude, 10 stacks. So if he come to your town and you just happen to snatch that F off his neck, I'ma shoot you the 10 stack, man, so I can cremate." Everything blew up on May 10th, 2005, when 4 men broke into the house Gucci was visiting. They beat him, threatened to shoot him, and in the struggle, Gucci fired a gun in self-defense. One of the attackers, Pookie Loke, a rapper tied to Jeezy's label, ran into the woods and died.
She was there, he was there. At one point, she opened up a door. 5 guys come running in and hit him with brass knuckles. Didn't hit him real hard, had him wrapped up. Another guy had a weapon, hit one of the other guys with a weapon. It became a situation where he defended himself.
Gucci was acquitted months later, but the beef lived on for over 15 years. It surfaced at Versus in 2020 when Gucci performed The Truth and hit Jeezy with the infamous line, "Put that ninja in the dirt, smoking on Pookie Loke tonight." The backlash lasted months until Gucci eventually admitted in 2022 that the diss was a low blow he regretted. Then there's Troy Ave versus Taxstone. What began as podcast jokes and slick comments turned into a confrontation backstage during a T.I. show. A fight broke out, shots rang out, and in the chaos, Troy Ave's best friend and bodyguard Ronald Bangin' McFadder was killed. Troy Ave was shot in both legs. Taxstone fled, and the entire thing spiraled into one of the biggest cases in modern rap. Taxstone was eventually convicted of manslaughter and handed 35 years.
Things got hot this summer for Brooklyn rapper Troy Ave and close friends after a shooting at Irving Plaza left his bodyguard Banger dead and Troy injured and arrested for attempted murder and gun charges. On Monday, podcast personality Taxstone was apprehended by police in Brooklyn. Sources tell NBC that he was wanted for a federal warrant that charged him with being a felon in possession of a firearm.
Chicago's drill scene brought its own tragic example. Chief Keef versus Lil Jojo. Keef represented 300 Black Disciples. JoJo was with 069 Brick Squad, Gangster Disciples, and every diss track was basically gang disrespect put to a beat. When JoJo dropped 300K with the lyrics, "These rappers claim 300 but we beat EK," he wasn't just dissing artists, he was calling out an entire faction. Tensions hit their peak in 2012 when JoJo was shot and killed while riding his bike. The murder was never solved, though multiple retaliatory shootings followed. Police investigated Keef due to his online taunts, but nothing stuck. Another brutal example is the quiet but deadly feud between 50 Cent and Jimmy Henchman. What started when 50 kicked the game out of G-Unit turned into a violent spiral of retaliation. Things got personal when Henchman's teenage son was assaulted by G-Unit affiliates Tony Yayo and Lodi Mack. Henchman responded by orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot. According to federal prosecutors, he paid multiple gunmen and coke to kill Lodi Mack, and they did.
Jimmy Henchman case, all this is documented. But the hitman was actually in jail with my friend. So he befriended him in jail. And then when he got home, that's the same hitman that was his friend in jail. It was the actual hitman.
Henchman ended up with life plus 30 years for the conspiracy. 50 Cent walked away untouched, insulated from the mess, but the beef ended with a body and federal sentences. Then there's the Diddy versus BMF tensions that circle the death of Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's longtime friend and bodyguard turned business rival. Wolf had invested heavily in Bad Boy and allegedly felt cheated when Diddy refused to pay him back. Things reportedly got worse when Diddy told him he didn't need him anymore because he had BMF for muscle. A confrontation in Atlanta turned into a deadly shootout in 2003 where Wolf was killed.
You know, he told Wolf he didn't need Wolf no more. He said, I don't need you no more. And he said Meech told him, you know, that he didn't need Wolf no more. He was walking towards Wolf and them, so Wolf and them like, yo, I guess they like, that's my man and everything like that, but damn, now he working for Meech and them. And he shot Wolf and Riz.
Rumors and conspiracy theories surrounded Diddy for years, accusations that he gave the green light, but was never charged. Most recently, it also played out in the Lil Durk vs. Quando Rondo feud, sparked by King Von's murder in 2020. Prosecutors say Durk eventually put a bounty on Rondo's head. In 2022, 5 men allegedly funded by Durk flew to LA and ambushed Rondo at a Beverly Hills gas station. Rondo survived, but his cousin Lil Pab was killed.
Sheriff's deputies pulling out a man who had been shot in an SUV. Savannah rapper Quando Rondo, a passenger in that car, frantic at the sight.
By 2024, Durk was arrested on federal murder-for-hire conspiracy charges. Level 7. This is where hip-hop hits its darkest point, where the actual artists at the center of the beef end up dead. One of the clearest examples is the long-running Young Dolph vs. Yo Gotti rivalry, which played out over nearly a decade. It all started when Dolph refused to sign with Yo Gotti CMG around 2014. Dolph stayed independent, built his own wave, and dropped diss songs like Play With Yo B that poked directly at Gotti's ego. He rapped, "Don't play with me, Gotti, you a main. You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater, begging me to sign with you, but I had too much paper." Then Dolph doubled down with his Bulletproof album in 2016, basically positioning himself as the real king of Memphis. The beef got deadly in February 2017 when Dolph's Bulletproof Corvette was hit with over 100 rounds during a tour stop in Charlotte. Somehow he survived without a scratch and even finished his show that night, which only made his legend bigger. But the tension never stopped. For years, they traded subliminals, threats, and territorial dominance. Then, on November 17, 2021, Dolph pulled up to Makeda's Cookies in Memphis, and 2 gunmen hopped out of a white Mercedes and shot him 22 times. Prosecutors later named the alleged shooters and claimed that Yo Gotti's brother, Big Juke, had offered a $100,000 bounty. The case got even darker when Big Juke himself was murdered a year later in 2023. Officially, nothing ties those killings together, but the streets form their own conclusions. Another clear moment was the King Von vs. Quando Rondo NBA YoungBoy situation. Whatever disrespect started it, things exploded in Atlanta on November 6, 2020. Outside Monaco Hookah Lounge, Von ran up on Quando's crew, a fight broke out, and within seconds, gunfire erupted. Von was shot in the chaos by Quando's affiliate and died after trying to get himself to the hospital.
Police say the rapper was shot after an argument broke out between 2 groups of men in the parking lot of a lounge in Atlanta, and the argument escalated into gunfire between the groups.
The story didn't end there. In 2022, federal prosecutors accused Lil Durk of sending a hit squad to LA to retaliate and kill Quando Rondo. Quando survived, but his cousin Lil Pab was killed in the ambush. Durk was later federally indicted in 2024 on murder-for-hire charges. But nothing in this level is bigger than Tupac versus the Notorious B.I.G. Pac and Big started as friends, but everything fell apart after the Quad Studio shooting in 1994. Pac felt set up. Big and Diddy were upstairs, Lil C's was involved in bringing Pac to the building, and Pac got shot and robbed in the lobby. Big's release of Who Shot Ya while Pac was in prison only made things worse, even though Big insisted it wasn't about him. Pac didn't buy it.
The Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? Because first of all, he dissed my man, said my man turned his back on him, and I know for a fact that didn't happen. And like the rumors that's spreading is on some tip like we set him up, you know what I'm saying? And that's crazy.
After signing to death row, he dropped the nuclear bomb Hit 'Em Up, where he famously went at Bad Boy, claiming he slept with Big's wife and telling them, "We gonna kill all you other F." By September 1996, Pac was in Las Vegas with Suge Knight when a white Cadillac pulled up and opened fire. Pac was hit multiple times and died 6 days later. 6 months after that, Biggie went to LA and was shot at a red light in another drive-by. Decades later, only one major arrest happened, when Keffe D was charged in 2023 for orchestrating Pac's killing. But Biggie's murder remains unsolved to this day. The newer generation wasn't spared either. The Jacksonville feud between Julio Foolio and Young and Ace was basically gang warfare turned into rap songs. Foolio was KTA, Ace was ATK, and the violence between their circles was real long before music. After Foolio's cousin was killed in 2017, Foolio mocked the deaths online, and Ace responded with a viral diss, "Who I Smoke," openly clowning the names of dead KTA members. Foolio and Ace were rumored to be cooling down behind the scenes, but on June 23, 2024, Foolio's 26th birthday, he was tracked across Tampa and ambushed at a Holiday Inn. Multiple masked shooters armed with modified rifles opened fire, killing him and injuring 3 bystanders.
A birthday celebration that took a turn for the worst. Now cars filled with bullet holes are at the center of an investigation to find out why famous rapper Julio Foolio, who just turned 26, was shot dead early this morning.
5 people were later arrested, and one masked man even claimed Ace paid him $10,000 for the hit, though Ace denied any involvement. Dallas had its own moments with Mo3 and Yella Breezy. Their beef wasn't as publicly documented, but it was real. On November 11, 2020, Mo3 was driving on Interstate 35 when someone chased him down, hopped out wearing a ski mask, and shot him as he tried to run away on foot. Broad daylight on a packed highway. The shooter, Keywan White, was eventually caught, but the bigger twist dropped in 2025 when Yella Breezy was indicted for capital murder for hire, with prosecutors claiming he hired White, gave him the gun, and ordered the hit. Mo3's family celebrated the arrest, saying justice had finally come. Even older cases like Chink's Drugs and Queens fall under this level. Chink's was Coke Boys, rising fast, moving clean, and repping Far Rockaway. In 2015, while driving with his girlfriend, a black Mercedes pulled up and sprayed his car. He tried to escape but bled out after pulling into a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. It took years, but investigators eventually arrested Quincy Jones and Jamar Hill, claiming the murder was revenge for a fight with Chink's 6 years earlier, while they were all locked up on Rikers Island.